Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Thursday evening devotion talk. The weather has changed, and so I've moved indoors once again. We're all familiar with many famous duos, especially in the world of showbiz. We have the comedy duos of the two Ronnies and Morecambe and Wise that are ever so popular. Or from the 1980s, the ice skating duo of Torvill and Dean. In a Google search, you come up with names like Tom and Jerry, Batman and Robin, Woody and Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. Not what we might call prolific names. In the world of business, however, there have been some very important duos. Bill Gates and Paul Allen, who masterminded the Microsoft world. Or Hewlett and Packard of computing fame. Or there's Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, better known as Ben and Jerry's Ice Creams. Then you have the likes of the Wright brothers, who began as bicycle repairmen and then moved on to build an aeroplane and make the first flight. And in our own backyard we have Harland and Wolff, the big shipbuilding company that has done so much work. Back into the Bible and in ancient Israel, Moses is the standout leader, bringing the children of Israel from slavery in Egypt to freedom beyond the Red Sea. In the early days, he was assisted well by his brother Aaron, who went down with him to meet Pharaoh. Later, God told Moses to commission a young leader called Joshua as the commander-in-chief. The Bible describes Joshua as being full of the Spirit and wisdom, a faithful man of God who is always at Moses' side, who went up the mountain with Moses to receive the commandments, who was with Moses when they come down to discover the people of Israel dancing round the golden calf. Philip Keller describes Joshua in these words: "He has seldom been given the full credit he deserves, as perhaps the greatest man of faith ever to set foot on the stage of human history. In fact, his entire brilliant career was a straightforward story of simply setting down one foot after another in quiet compliance with the commands of God." It doesn't sound awfully dramatic, and yet there was much that was dramatic in Joshua's life, as we have known. Alongside Joshua is another faithful man. His name is Caleb. When Moses sent 12 spies, one from each tribe, into Canaan to spy out the land and its people, only Joshua and Caleb came back with a positive answer, saying, "We can take them. God is with us. Let's go for it." The other 10 spies said, "No, they're big and powerful and they would obliterate us." Caleb is described as one who wholly followed God. While the book of Joshua is primarily about how Joshua led and guided Israel into Canaan, taking control of the cities and possession of the land, Caleb was part of the action. And when the fighting was done, this faithful man comes to Joshua and asks for his promised inheritance. And we read these words in Joshua chapter 14. "And Moses swore on that day to Caleb, saying, 'Surely the land on which your foot has trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years since the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses, while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now, behold, I am this day 85 years old. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then, for war and for going and coming. So now give me this hill country, of which the Lord spoke on that day. For you heard on that day how the Anakim were there with great fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out, just as the Lord said. At 85 years of age, Caleb is full of zeal, and he wants to take possession of that which had been promised to him. Full of zeal. And we're reminded a wee bit of that as we look at how Captain Tom Moore has set such a wonderful example in walking through his garden and raising £30 million for the National Health Service. And on this, his 100th birthday, we applaud him. Joshua and Caleb were faithful men of God. The only two Israelites of their generation to leave Egypt and to enter into the promised land. Others rebelled and died in the wilderness during those 40 wasted years. But Joshua and Caleb teach us the value of faithfulness in God. They were faithful in their early years, no doubt learning much from parents who loved God and who taught them about how Joseph was their provider in the days of famine. They learned from Moses and his leadership, and especially that great event of the Passover when the angel of death passed over Egypt and the children of Israel were safe in the houses marked with the blood of the Lamb. What of your earlier years? Think back of things that you learned from your parents, from Sunday school teachers, from youth leaders, and from others that were instrumental in pointing you and leading you to faith in Jesus Christ. Faithful in adversity. The children of Israel come to that huge obstacle of the Red Sea with the Egyptian army pursuing them. But God divided the sea and they walk across on dry land. Then there's life in the wilderness. And many of Israel begin to complain that the food isn't good enough and there's not water to drink. And they rebel. And they fall away from honouring God. Hard times question our faith. Hard times can cause us to complain to God, even to fall away. Joshua and Caleb remained faithful in adversity. They are faithful to the end. They have their faith in God, that God is with them, just as God said to Joshua, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And Caleb can say, I have wholly followed God, the Lord my God. He's not disappointed. Even at 85 years, he looks ahead with confidence. The Lord will be with me. The true test of our belonging to God is our being faithful from start right through to the finish. Early zeal for Christ can fade in times of trouble or sickness or in disappointment. And in adversity, we know that we too can call out to God that He will be with us as He has promised, that He will deliver us, that He will strengthen us to run the race of faith. But let's always remember, it's not how you start that is most important, and most start with a lot of zeal. It is how you finish. It's how you run that race. Caleb did not lose his zeal. Joshua did not fade out in the race. Yes, the years may weary us, but God enables. And there is always work to do for Jesus. And at 85 years, Caleb is ready to do what God requires. Sometimes we feel as though we've been doing something long enough. It's time to let it go, move on. But God doesn't want us to be idle. There is other work that He wants us to do, that He will equip us for, while we have the zeal to serve Him. Things may change with years, but with faith we can continue steadfast to the end, knowing that there is that crown of glory waiting for us. And those words of Jesus, well done, good and faithful servant. I have no doubt that Joshua heard those words, well done, good and faithful servant. That Caleb heard those words, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Let's learn from these two great men of faith. Let's follow their example. Let's be faithful in our early years, faithful in adversity, faithful right unto the end, serving God with all our heart and with all our zeal. I'm going to say a wee prayer, and I'm going to use words from a lovely hymn as our prayer tonight. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by many a foe, that will not tremble on the brink of poverty or woe, that will not murmur nor complain beneath the chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain can lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give me such a faith as this, and then, whate'er may come, I taste even now the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. Amen. Well, amen. And may God bless his word to all your hearts and be with you until we meet again on Sunday morning. God bless. Thank you.